After a break in 2002, Hiroshi Kashiwabara is once again serving as writer for this movie, with Dead or Alive's Jun Kawagoe coming in on director duties. Anita serves as the leading lady this time round, voiced by Rino Katase. We also have Koichi Yamadera coming in once more, this time as the voice of Rats. Our ending song this time is Le Soleil d'Or, fittingly sung in French. Lupin and Jigen have the sights set on a Russian casino. Jigen spots Zenigata entering, who meets with the owner, a Russian mobster, Ivan Krokovich, also known as Rats. As with most of Lupin's victims, Rats is confident in his security, as sleeping gas will fill the vents if anyone trips the sensors. A brief power cut, courtesy of Jigen, allows the two of them to mess with the cameras. Lupin swipes the money in the safe, but there's still a warning light in the main security room. Zenigata scans the camera and discovers something in one of the vents. He races down, but Lupin escapes using the money case as a makeshift scooter. He unites with Jigen on a speedboat, but Zenigata comes along for the ride. Rat's henchmen soon follow, opening fire with rockets. Jigen shoots them out of the sky, and then they take out the pursuing boats by doubling back and shooting. Meanwhile, Goemon's meditating in Tibet. The group seeing to him let him know they're heading down to meet with some Russian mafia that was sighted in the village. Upon hearing an explosion, he charges down, but it's too late to save anyone as the mafia, led by a woman named Misha, have shot them. Lupin's already spent half of his earnings on an old plane. It proves pretty worthless as it cuts out pretty quickly. Nearby, a funeral's being held for a man named Mark Williams. Not that one. They hear the plane crash and charge out. Lupin apologises for the disturbance before running as a nun keeps watch. Night falls and Lupin explores the nearby village, as he knew Mark in his double life as a thief. Jigen tags along, but has some apprehension when he learns that Lupin's after a piece of meteorite known as the Trick Diamond, once located on the Sagrada Familia. They find a hidden chamber that stores various things Mark's stolen and make a move on the diamond. While the diamond's missing, Zenigata's waiting, having known Lupin was visiting Mark over the last year. Zenigata celebrates his successful arrest of Lupin with a drink. The nun warns him that drinking isn't allowed as she passes food around. Revealing to Lupin who she is, Fujiko passes some bread to him on condition he lets her in on the heist. Inside is some explosive gear, allowing them to escape. Zenigata's left with a near miss from a collapsing wall, apparently a reference to Buster Keaton's stunt in Steamboat Bill Jr. Returning to the church, Fujiko presents Lupin with a video message from Mark. Fully aware of Lupin's intent to steal the Trick Diamond, he tasks him with returning 6 treasures within 7 days. Fujiko hands him a digital camera with a network transmitter that he can use to document each return, while she waits at a bank holding the diamond's location. Misha leads an attack on the gang, but Fujiko provides a distraction as Lupin and Jigen escape with the treasure. The first thing to return is the Boca della Verita, which currently has a replica on display. Lupin fakes getting his hand caught in the mouth and rolls off with the replica. Outside, Jigen helps him swap the replica for the real thing, which Lupin rolls back to its location. He photographs the result, with Fujiko revealed to be working with Rats. Zenigata, meanwhile, is just confused when he's called in and learns the real thing was brought back by Lupin. Lupin and Jigen head to Venice next, with a coffee pot from the 1645 coffee house and the gondola from Moonraker as their next targets. Spotting Goemon, Lupin tricks him into returning the pot by claiming they require people to bring their own coffee pots at that particular coffee house. It ends up going about how one would expect for him. Fujiko enjoys a meal with Rats, who tells her the Trick Diamond was carved from a meteorite found at the Tunguska impact, theorised to have actually been a UFO. Antoni Gaudi came into its possession courtesy of Rat's grandfather before Mark took it after his death. Fujiko's mostly interested in the money side of things, and has to warn Rat that Lupin's key to finding the diamond when she learns his henchmen are targeting him. Lupin's busy returning the gondola as Misha leads Rat's team against him. He straps a motor to the gondola to try and outrun them, receiving some help from Goemon along the way. No grudge for the coffee pot, I guess. Plus she did kill the people looking after him. Unfortunately, Zenigata's waiting with the net in place. Lupin decides to just take the picture then and there as everyone's surrounded. Zenigata admits that he's curious over Lupin returning treasure rather than stealing it. He's moved when Lupin feeds him a story about wanting to reform as he approaches his old age. He then takes a bathroom break as Lupin chews some gum. While it's not red and green, it does have explosive properties. Also subjects Zenigata to another Buster Keaton moment. Rats meets up with Misha, telling her to call off her attack on Lupin. He also takes time to remind her she's nothing more than a human shield for him, apparent affections aside. Lupin has a meeting with Fujiko, suspecting she's aiming to collect on the insurance for all of his actions. She doesn't confirm or deny, simply reminding him he only has 4 days left for the remaining treasures. Treasure number 4 is a set of cabaret dresses from the Moulin Rouge. The gang sneak inside by pretending to be part of the show. Jigen probably should have done something to hide his beard, even if no one noticed. Zenigata enters as they take the photo, with the owner noting there are too many dresses on display. Lupin drops one of the dresses on Zenigata and he's stuck as part of the show himself. At least he didn't have a wall fall on him this time. The 5th treasure takes the gang to Berlin via the Autobahn. Misha makes another attack on the gang, with the resulting shrapnel from an RPG shredding their tyres. The gang switched to using the treasure itself to continue, a custom-made royal car that was donated to a museum when its commissioner died. Unfortunately, a traffic jam further down allows Misha to catch up. Goemon, who'd split away during the initial attack, reappears and fights them off but gets a bullet in the shoulder for his trouble. Jigen jumps after Goemon while Lupin returns the car to the museum. Borrowing a motorbike, he heads out with the final treasure, the Little Mermaid statue. Jigen's ambushed by Misha as he tries to search for Goemon. Meanwhile, one of the attendees at Mark's funeral, a trainee architect called Anita, finds Goemon collapsed by her car. Lupin wonders if it's even worth it to return the statue given how much it's been vandalised over the years, as he's experienced himself. Zenigata's once again ready for him, though he's forced to play along with Lupin's game. By this point he's savvy to Lupin's explosive escapes. Not that it saves him, as a false tooth contains yet another bomb. He's also not quite so lucky when it comes to collapsing walls this time. Lupin tries to contact Fujiko, but her number's been taken out of rotation. He receives a message from Goemon, presumably composed with Anita's help given he's no good with mobile phones, but Lupin's phone battery runs out before he can read it. With the photos in hand, Fujiko shows them to a manager to retrieve the documents for the Trick Diamond's location. The manager's attacked by one of Rat's henchmen, Tokarev. Lupin tries to hitch a ride with no luck. He then inspects Mark's camera and discovers a hidden message as the old man figured Fujiko would betray him. Rats also watches a video message from Mark found among the documents. Mark divulges the date of June 25th, Gaudi's birthday, from the message, as well as telling them to set the diamond in Sagrada Familia's St. Barnabas Tower. They get the password question for the diamond's location wrong on what Mark and Lupin stole in a New York competition, so the rest of the message is locked from them, however. Toilet paper from Trump Tower of all things. No comment. Meanwhile, Jigen's tortured for Lupin's location, but Rats contacts Misha and says to hold off on killing him. Lupin's directed to Anita's home via Mark's message as she's talking with a recuperating Goemon. He recognises her from the funeral, and she's already aware that he was going to visit her. Mark loved Anita's mother Letitia from afar, and took care of Anita herself when Letitia died. She was instructed to give Lupin a bear when he came to see her. Inside, Lupin finds the trick diamond, revealing it's named as such due to absorbing any light that enters it. Jigen manages to escape Misha and Tokarev when an opportunity arises for him to counter. Lupin takes Anita and Goemon to Barcelona, more specifically a bar near the Sagrada Familia. He meets with a bartender, Carlos, who knew Mark as a child when they both used to play around the Sagrada Familia. Mark was told something by Gaudi himself on the day he was hit by the tram, while Carlos was told to keep an eye on the church every morning. Lupin and Goemon scout out the church, spotting some suspicious men. Zenigata also notes various organised crime groups seem to be gathering in Barcelona. Lupin meets back up with Anita, who's done some sightseeing, discussing how admirable it is that the Sagrada Familia is still being worked on long after Gaudi's death. Fujiko arrives, in bad shape, wanting the trick diamond for auction. She also tries to work a charm to get a share of whatever treasure the trick diamond leads to. As Rat recruits Fujiko's auctioneers to his side, Lupin has Carlos shelter Anita, telling them not to head outside until sunrise. Heading to the church, the gang engage various crime families. Goemon stays back as Misha makes her move. His arm's still on the men from the bullets, but Jigen arrives and wrecks Misha's own gun. Zenigata proves to still be on point as he grabs Lupin with a crane. Fujiko hijacks control of the crane with some help from a remote. Unfortunately, Lupin drops the ball containing the diamond when Rat takes a shot at him, allowing him to grab it. Lupin then races across and grapples Rat for it. They end up dropping it in the ensuing fight. Rat races downstairs for it, but Fujiko kicks it back up to Lupin. Lupin makes it to the top of the tower and sets a diamond in just as the sun rises. The whole church starts shaking and lighting up as a result. Meanwhile, Jigen's caught in a fight with Tokarev, who mocks him for using a revolver over his own Desert Eagle. They're evenly matched, but Jigen uses some trick shots to jam Tokarev's firing chamber. As a result, Jigen's the victor, taking Tokarev out with his last bullet. Goemon's injury is also catching up to him as he fights Misha's sword to knife. He puts everything into one final strike. She grows angry when he doesn't deal a killing blow, however. Man-made fog surrounds the church as Lupin and Rat continue their fight. Misha moves to aid Rat as Lupin fires a shot. Rat ends up taking the bullet for her despite his earlier words. Repeating the story of the trick diamond coming from a UFO, he laments not being able to see Gaudi's intent before falling from the tower with Misha. Music begins playing around the city as the Sagrada Familia lights up. Everyone watches as the church comes together in a more complete fashion via holographic projection. As with Cagliostro's treasure, Lupin notes this is too big for him to steal, and even Fujiko has to admit being impressed by it. Inspired by the sight, Anita decides to continue architecture, bidding the gang goodbye. Following this, the gang once again go on the run from Zenigata as they have done so many times before. It feels like they got a good handle on colouring, as this one feels a lot more vivid and less blue filtered. Some nice detail in a lot of the scenery too, especially in Spain. Also the first time in over 20 years to see the old typewritten title card make a return. This one's probably the most chilled movie since Steal Napoleon's Dictionary, honestly. There's certainly the stakes with the time limit to get the treasure, but for the most part it feels like a fun tour of European hotspots. The concept itself is certainly unique too, as it does raise the question of can the world's greatest thief manage to return something stolen? Even without rats as a factor, that plot could probably carry the movie on its own. On the note of rats, not really a huge factor to this movie. Misha does well to give Goemon a bit more involvement than he often gets, and there is the action in the final 20 minutes, but that probably could have just been the random mafia that Fujiko recruited as auctioneers either way. Same goes for Anita to a degree, as while she gets an early appearance at Mark's funeral, she kind of disappears for half the movie and doesn't really do too much when she does appear. Granted, she does tend to Goemon, allowing for Lupin to meet back up with him, and she does tie into Mark's past, so it's not as if she's completely in the background. For a character who's dead, Mark serves as pretty entertaining. Kind of fun to have someone who's able to beat Lupin at his own game, even if it was for toilet paper. Also a good touch that he manages to be savvy to Fujiko's betrayal too, giving a backup message for when it happens. One gets the impression the history there was similar to Dalune, in that he helped train Lupin to be the best. Goes pretty well on the comedy side of things this time, with the aforementioned toilet paper thievery being one example. Goemon's coffee pot mishap was another highlight, and also kind of surprising that he was able to work a mobile phone for once. Zenigata was another highlight, managing to get some near victories only to be outwitted by Lupin's explosives. It happens. Overall, worthwhile watch if you're after a Lupin movie with a more relaxed atmosphere. Next time, a girl with a butterfly tattoo makes an attempt to steal Lupin. Until then.